If you're planning on making a move to the suburbs of Houston, Texas, timing matters way more than most people realize. Most people think the first step is to get on Zillow and look for houses. It's actually the third step. I've helped families relocate from all over the country, and honestly, the people who have the smoothest move are the ones who start preparing months in advance before they ever pack a box. And the people who struggle, they wait too long to figure out where they want to live, what commute they can handle, how Texas property taxes work, or when they should actually start house hunting. So in this video, I'm going to break down the complete timeline for relocating to the suburbs of Houston, Texas, from 6 months before you move all the way to move-in day. And I'll also share some of the mistakes I see relocation buyers make every single day so that you can avoid them, because trust me, Houston is very different than most cities. All right, so if you're planning on making a move to the Houston suburbs, you need to start planning 6 months in advance. And this is where smart relocation planning starts. At this stage, you should not be looking for individual homes yet. You should be focusing on lifestyle, commute, budget, and what area of town you want to live in. Remember, Houston is massive. 10,000 square miles in the metro area. Commute times matter, and all the suburbs have a very different feel. In the city of Houston, there's recognized 88 super neighborhoods, and there are about 100 suburbs outside of Houston, from Katy, Fulshire, Cypress, Woodlands, League City, Richmond, Pearland, and all of these offer a very different lifestyle. So some of the things that you need to research during this time period are the property taxes, the flood zones, the school districts, the commute times, the HOA fees, how old the house is, and how much is it going to cost to insure this house. And one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is choosing a suburb based only on the house prices. Now, you may find a cheaper house, but if your commute is miserable every day, you're going to regret it fast. All right, the next step is going to be the 4 to 5 months before moving. This is when you start to build your relocation team. Now, you're gonna need a realtor, you're gonna need a lender, you're gonna need an insurance agent, and it's very important that you work with that lender to get your pre-approval early. First and foremost, it helps you understand the price point you can afford based on your income, debt, and credit score. Second, Houston moves fast in price points all across the city, and you don't want to wait until the last minute to talk to the lender, because that will create unnecessary stress and may lead to you losing out on the house of your dreams. What we need to talk about in Texas is some very specific costs. Property taxes. A lot of people relocating coming from places that don't have property taxes. You need to understand how much they are. You need to understand insurance costs. You need to understand what a mud tax is. You need to understand HOA dues. All of these things can make your monthly payment in Texas look very different, and a lot of buyers just don't expect this. What I usually do with relocation clients is help them narrow down a target to 2 to 3 areas first before we ever even look at the first home. All right, step 3, this is gonna be 3 months before moving to Houston, Texas. This is when we start getting serious. This is when buyers should actually visit Houston if possible. Schedule community tours, test commute routes, explore different suburbs. You need to understand the importance of the different lifestyles you are going to face in these communities. You can research Houston online all day, but each neighborhood feels different in person. And that's why it's important at the 3-month point for you to make a trip to Houston and explore these areas and view them for yourself. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna compare some neighborhoods. Does Katy work better than Cypress? Does Fulshire work better than Richmond? Does Inner Loop work better than the suburbs? Is League City better than Friendswood? Woodlands versus Conroe or Magnolia? All of these things you can explore and see first person. There may be some things that you can't see online that you will see in a certain neighborhood, and you will realize you're gonna cross that neighborhood off your list. So do not choose a neighborhood based only on social media clips or one model homes. A lot of these newer communities are still under construction. Some have a huge commute time depending upon where you're going in the Houston area, and some have high taxes. Now, some fit families better than others. So whatever you do, you need to come down to Houston and explore all of these things in person. All right, the next step, this is 60 days before moving. Now, this is actually the sweet spot for actively house hunting. And at this point, financing should be ready to go. Target areas should be narrowed down. Budget should be established. Now, here's the thing. In Houston, inventory changes fast. A house you love today may be gone tomorrow. So what that means is we need to have good and quick communication. We need to schedule virtual tours if necessary. I can do FaceTime showings, and we need to have a strong offer strategy in place. Now, another thing to consider when you're looking at making a move to Houston is the new construction. Now, for many people relocating, new construction can simplify the process. And right now, the builders have an excess of inventory, and they're offering amazing incentives like lower than market interest rates, money for your down payment and closing costs, and prices that are lower than some of the homes that are already sitting on the market that have already been built. Now, there's the pros. You get warranties, you get builder incentives, you get flexibility with move times, you get lower maintenance costs. Now, what the cons are: taxes may increase. A lot of times your first year in that new property is based on just the land value of the property. So that second year, your taxes are going to increase. Now, if you know this ahead of time, then you can plan for it. If you don't, it can definitely catch you off guard. Now, some of these newer areas also have smaller lots. Some of these communities may not have all of the amenities built out yet. And those are things that you need to take a look at when you're coming to look at these properties. Now, 60 days before moving is when you should come to Houston and physically tour the homes on your list and narrow down your choices. All right, we're getting to crunch time, 30 days before moving. This is when things start to get real. At this point, you should have already selected a home and make an offer. This is where the inspections will start. It is important to have a realtor that will be present in your absence at these inspections. If you are moving from another place, it's probably probable that once you put that offer, you went home. You need to have a real estate agent on your side who has connections with inspectors in the area who can go out and walk you through all of the things that they find. Now, also, what you need to do at this time is start giving yourself a checklist. You need to finalize the moving company. You need to start transferring utilities, school registration, change of address, insurance setup, schedule closing with the title company. Now, one thing to remember, depending upon the time of year you're moving, is that Houston summers are extremely hot. And if you're moving during June, July, or August, you need to prepare differently. You need to make sure that you're hydrated. You need to make sure that you're moving in the morning. You need to understand that that garage is going to be super hot, and you need to make sure that you inspect that AC on your property to ensure it works. Now, here's one thing a lot of folks miss: flood and homeowners insurance. Insurance in Texas is something that you need to understand early, not after you go under contract. You need to understand what it's going to cost for that homeowner's insurance policy, and you need to know, depending upon the area you're in, if you need to carry flood insurance too. All right, now comes the part that's the most exciting. It is move-in week. Now, this is the most exciting part, but it also can feel very overwhelming. And one thing that I want to make sure that people know is that you do not get the keys of the property until the seller receives their funds, which can depend on the time of day that you sign the closing documents. A lot of people misunderstand the way the process works. They think that when you go in and sign the documents and pay your closing cost and your deposit for the property, that you get the keys then, and that is just not the case. The keys don't exchange hands until the seller receives their funds, and that can be after you sign the documentation and it's been sent over and reviewed by the lender. So you needed to be sure that you understand that timeline and coordinate with your movers accordingly. Now, once that's happened, you can start doing things like figuring out where the grocery store is. Get your easy tag set up. The toll systems in Houston are a must. Find out where your doctors are. Where's the gym at? Where are you guys gonna go to church? What are some local restaurants? Where are all the nearby essentials? Those are the things you do during your moving week. Now, one thing I always tell relocation clients is this: moving to Houston isn't just about buying a house, it's about building a life here. Now, here are some common mistakes I see people make and things that you should definitely avoid. Don't underestimate commute times. Just because it says it's 30 miles away doesn't mean it's going to be 30 minutes. You have to check Google Maps every single day to notice the traffic patterns, to see when the congestion is going to be. Never underestimate your commute times. The second mistake I see people make is ignoring property taxes. You need to understand that property taxes in Texas are higher, a lot higher than any other states. And you also need to understand that you don't need to choose a property just based solely on the price of the property. You need to consider all of the costs associated with moving in. Insurance, taxes, HOA, all of those things. Don't wait to get pre-approved. Waiting too long means that you don't understand your budget. You need to understand your budget, and you need to be prepared to move on a property because you're on a tight timeline if you're relocating. Now, another mistake I see people make is not visiting the areas in person. This is a must. If you're going to move to a new area, you need to visit it in person. Or if you can't visit in person, make sure your real estate agent is doing a FaceTime walkthrough with you, getting a lot of videos of the property, but not only the property, the area. These are all things that you need to have a good idea of before you move in. And lastly, don't assume that all Houston suburbs are the same. Each one has its individual feel and vibe about it, and you need to go see that in person. If you're thinking about relocating to Houston and you're not sure where to start, that's exactly what my team and I help people with every single week. I've even created a resource called the Houston Suburbs Relocation Guide. It's going to be in the description below. Feel free to download that and go through that checklist. So whether you're moving in 30 days, 6 months, or even next year, I can help you narrow down the best Houston suburbs based on your lifestyle, commute, budget, and goals. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. All of my contact information is located in the description below. Call me, send me a text, set up a Zoom meeting. We'll love to chat with you and just get an idea of what you're looking for in the Houston area. And if you've enjoyed this video, please make sure to like it and share it with somebody who may be thinking about moving to the suburbs of Houston, Texas. We'll see you next time. Thanks.